Good afternoon. It's Lilia here from Heal Scotland. And today I'm very excited to have Dr. Thornton Streeter with me with the Pacific Ocean in his background. Thornton, how are you? Thanks so much for coming on the podcast.
Oh, I'm really good actually. I'm on really good form. I've just been doing a road trip. I don't know whether I did it on purpose, but over the last few months, I'd left a few things dotted around, and I just made the last couple of days the day that I went and collected everything. I left my drill somewhere. It was just one of those trips. So yeah, I've ended up at my friend's house on the beach, and as you may know, I've got loads of new kittens, so
I saw that.
I'm chomping at the bit to get back up there and give them a cuddle. But I did have a friend sleep over for a couple of nights to look
after them.
Yeah.
So exactly. Can you tell us just like, how long have you been in Mexico for?
I've been here for nearly 3 years. I'm not here all the time because my main home is in Colorado, but and we had some fires there which have made my road inaccessible. So in the summertime I can park my car and walk or cycle or ride a quad up to my house, no problem. But in the winter I can't. So yeah, I basically have been, I guess you would call it wintering here, like a snowbird, and then up in America a lot more in the summer. But I think, generally I'm one of those people that was quite happy to have a rest for a couple of years after gallivanting around. My training format was in person originally. So I had to go to Singapore and Malaysia and Australia and every other place every other year. And then I just realized that actually the best way for me to share my knowledge with a practitioner is to do it with their own clients because they know them really well. And that means I can kind of be a virtual fly on the wall in their clinic, like I've done with you, experiencing your clients and having a frame of reference because you've already taken some, you've done a intake form, their symptoms or whatever it is, or you may know them incredibly well. So the transfer of knowledge, of interpreting the biofield, which obviously is what we're going to talk about today, happens very nicely, best with your mother and your sister to start with, because you know these people, and then your 10, supportive clients who want to try it out. So that means I've been able to sort of lower my carbon footprint, let's say, look at it in a positive way.
Yeah, I think that's one thing lockdown did for a lot of us. It kind of pushed us online, and it really is very convenient. Now, just for people who have not met you, who don't know who you are, I'm not even sure if you know this story, but I was thinking, how can I teach people about the electromagnetic side of the body? And I thought somebody's bound to have done a video. So I was on YouTube looking for the electromagnetic field, and I found you.
Right.
And that's when I messaged you, and I was like, and then you told me about the Biofield Viewer, and that's obviously the technology that we have now at Heal Scotland. And obviously you've been training me with the literally hundreds of pictures I've been sending you, etc. So it's only really now that I'm starting to fully understand and get really much more confident with it. Yeah. Because it blows me away, and it has done every training with you, how you can just tell by looking at what is literally colours.
Yeah.
You're picking up so much information. So
yeah, well, it's a bit like a weather forecaster. I mean, if you can see the Doppler on the screen, I mean, you should be able to analyze it. I would say that's the thing. I'm not a soothsayer able to psychically tune in, but what I am able to do is interpret data, and that's a beautiful thing because we can teach each other how to do that.
Absolutely. And what can obviously, I've been showing all the women, all the goddess gathering tours around Scotland. I've been showing them the viewer, and at the weekend, I said, look, you're not going to get a clean picture because there was all sorts of crazy lighting going on, but just to let them understand that they can see, and they could certainly see their third eye. I said, but you're not going to get a clear reading in this kind of lighting. But what it does help people see that it's biofeedback, isn't it, as well? It's like, that's your body. The colours can tell you how the energy is flowing. But can you explain to us how you got into this? How did this start?
I banged my head very hard. Basically. Yeah, I dived into the shallow end of a swimming pool and I cracked my head open.
Is this true?
Yeah, and I had to have it stapled together with, like steel staples. And after that, I didn't feel normal, And I think my perception widened somewhat. You've heard of trepanning?
Trepanning, tell me.
Trepanning's an old middle-aged way of I don't even know, they drill a hole in their forehead. It's pretty freaky. But I think I trepanned myself at the bottom of my uncle's swimming pool. So basically that was of interest because I recovered pretty quickly. I actually fractured my spine in a few places. It's a brilliant story. I was in a hospital in California and the next door bed was a gangster and he had 2 broken knees because he'd had to let himself out of a car. Anyway, I wanted to get out of that room fast, so I think I healed myself super fast. So I kind of fused my spine together. But even a couple of weeks later, I still had this feeling like a top of a pineapple of my energy leaking. And I mean, I didn't know I had energy, but when you feel it leaking, you realize you've got it, kind of thing.
Really?
So it was quite a spontaneous thing. Yeah, I was about 20, 21 or something. So it was good timing. I'd already had a couple of rounds of doing some work, believe it or not. I was a British television advertising kid. Did you ever know that?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I missed the cornflakes, Aquafresh, Mother's Pride, Dairy Box. I did them all.
Seriously?
Yeah, I mean, I'm in your psyche already because I was there, on your TV, in the 70s.
Oh. Well, I need to Google that. That would be interesting.
I don't know what you can find. I think there's some of the ads were famous, like Dairy Box, and the milk advert I did was very famous.
Oh.
But yeah, I mean, that meant I was like, on the ladder as a 5-year-old, weirdly. So yeah, I mean, that gave me the freedom, again, weirdly, to be a little bit more persistent about wanting to study this field. So anyhow, I felt like a pineapple. I wanted to know what was going on. And so I was able to, I'm actually telling 2 stories at once. So let me tell you the other half of the story because it actually needs to be told first. I was at a ceremony in South India. And it was called the Yagna ceremony. It costs a lot of money to put on, and it takes 27 days for the chief priest to chant all the Sanskrit mantras before, during, and after the ceremony. And they only ever learn this one ceremony, these priests, because it's 27 days of Sanskrit they got to learn in their head. Very special thing. And it's basically, it's planetary forecasting. It's a Vedic principle. It's gone on for eons. And the chief priest flies up to the gods on this clay bird and spends 3 days chatting with them and then comes back with the message. This is how it works. This is the shortened version. Excuse me if I have tiptoed on any tulips in my explanation. But there was an amazing lady there from your neck of the woods called Rosemary Steele. And she had this brick house built with no windows, which was already a bit strange in the middle of the jungle. And it was for taking electrographic Kirlian photographs of the chief priest's hands all the way through the work up to the ceremony. And then when he was supposed to leave his body, there was no Kirlian handprint because he had genuinely left his body. So To be honest, that whole thing blew my mind. I just was completely, you know, it completely blew my mind learning about, I guess, kind of astral projection and auras, you know, and there were all kinds of crazy people there. There were scientists from all over the world at the ceremony measuring stuff. I was there because I was making a radio show. You know, I wanted to know what a Hindu taxi driver and a Muslim family talked about in the back of the car. You know, I was like, and so I ended up getting sent down to this place. It was absolutely brilliant. So fast forward to banging my head. I was then heading back to London, and there was no internet or anything like that. So I went to the library and I looked up Kirlian photography, and the lady said, "Well, we don't do that anymore." And I said, "Okay." So I scratched my head for a week, and then I called her back and said, "Well, what do you do then?" It was one of those, you know, I needed a week, and that started my world. I met a schoolboy called John Catchpole. I mean, yeah, sorry, you know, we were young, let's say.
Yeah.
In the midst of time, I say schoolboy, it's probably university by the time I actually met him, but he had been developing this sort of way of doing non-linear programming since he was at school. And him and I are from the same village in England. We're both from Bishop Stortford, which is, again, totally weird because I met him in Ruislip, and he and I both collaborated with a very brilliant man called Harry Oldfield. And he, you know, John had basically made this software and said, "Harry, I think I can see the energy around crystals with it," and that kind of thing. And, you know, Harry was already developing his crystal techniques. And of course, John's mother, if anyone's interested, was already teaching the Harry Oldfield crystal course. So it was a kind of family affair, and I was very happy to become part of that family. Harry passed away a few years ago, unfortunately. But I think we do him proud. You know, I think we do his legacy proud. I mean, obviously, John was able to keep developing his software as technology developed. And after, you know, both of us had kind of stopped working with Harry, he said to me, "You know, it's better and faster." And I said, "Well, I want to include my chakra filter effectively, because that was something that I'd developed myself." And he then also was able to add the 3D, which I don't know whether you saw in our Facebook group that one of your colleagues in England has posted a picture of 3D images of like a dozen people, and it's really freaky because they all look like they've got pink spirals, all of them. And it's basically what we're seeing is the torsion. You know, our eyes and bodies have all evolved on a planet that spins at 1,000 miles an hour. And so anything else that's spinning, it's a bit like riding a wave on a surfboard. You either got it or you ain't. But we've all got this, which is the fact that we look at an object and it's not a myriad of vibrating atoms anymore. It's a bench, you know. We've just honed our shit down to focusing on stuff so that we don't miss it or sit on the floor by mistake. I mean, what I say is that in school we get programmed, and it starts with the pencil, looking at the blackboard, looking back at the pencil, looking up at the blackboard, back at the pencil. That is programming, and it makes us focus. And so when people say to me, "Why can't I see auras?" I say, you can. You've just got to get rid of all that programming that was done on you, including watching the TV and a screen. That all makes you focus. And the way when I'm wanting to look at someone's energy field without a machine, their aura, I look past them, basically. I don't focus on their eyes and nose and their facial features for all the cues anymore. I go into 3D stereogram mode. You know, you're trying to see the arm or the dolphin amongst all those dots, and suddenly pop, you can see someone's energy. So it's not about clairvoyance isn't a gift. It just means clear seeing.
Yes.
So it's kind of, you've got to unclutter. What I would say, though, for those that are interested, is how do we see clairvoyantly? Well, we form a lens with our biofield because it's healthy and symmetrical and bright, and it's not a deck of crumpled flowers, you know. So I think it's important that we understand what the health factor is. We can see that somebody's a 0 or 100, and there's this new way where we don't need to look at their blood or their heart rate. We can see a level of vibrancy.
Yes.
You know, a level of tensegrity in the symmetry of their biofield. So if they're a spinning top, we don't worry about them because they're spinning dead on center. But if they're starting to wobble, unless I can induce the wobble out of that spinning top, they're going to fall over. That's dead. You know, so it's very clear. It's just that, as I alluded to in my title, there's been a massive operation to subvert our understanding of self. And that is, I mean, it's not accident, so it is genuinely a sinister thing. And it's why I'm so aggressively anti the concept of integration. It's like, if I love medical doctors, I've trained tens of thousands of them, and thousands of them use our technology because they've crossed over some line, which is the same line that you get programmed with at school. That there is maybe a little bit more. I mean, someone asked, what's the difference between science and woo-woo on my group this morning or yesterday? And I wrote, science is everything inside the circle that is known. And woo-woo is everything outside that circle, and most of the stuff in it as well.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm not integrating. Integration to a big hospital is, let's get a couple of kinesiologists and some strokers and pokers in a few rooms down the hall so we can promote that we're integrative. It's not this proper, you assess this guy, I'll assess that guy, and between us we can work out what's the best protocol for the individual. We can't do that. I don't want to stroke and poke some guy who's been pigeonholed as having some disease, which they've lowered the bar for to make him fit the grade. I'm sorry, it's all absolute candy floss, and I'm not interested. And by standing firm, it gets, why is there so much confidence? You know, if they've got pendulums and tea leaves and you know, their psychic ability, then we can keep that conspiracy theory of a bunch of quack pseudo-scientists running. But if they've come with tools that have been independently assessed that show, I mean, acupuncture, 6,000-year-old medical science. I was involved in a project with the House of Lords where they were organizing what grade they should give different modalities. And acupuncture got a C, and Ayurveda got a C, because these guys said, we've got no published evidence. And the Indian government sent a plane load of scientists with all these Ayurvedic journals written in English, published often decades longer than some of the journals that, you know, so it was just like, if you want to look in a small pond and say, I can't see any newts, then it doesn't mean they're extinct, you know. My remit comes through the United Nations, and the fundamental numbers are that 70% of the world's population doesn't get to see a doctor, whether they like to or not. I mean, as we're speaking about India, we train tens of thousands of medical doctors in India, but they all get poached. They're all in America and England. And there's the health minister in England going, well, okay, well, your patient won't be able to understand your deep Tamil, but at least the guys you've abandoned in your village after getting free medical training, and you were supposed to work there for 2 years to pay it off, they've got nobody sitting there. It's crickets, you know. And I think those people are lucky, to be honest, because they aren't, you know, being subjected to the cull, which is currently going on at the moment. You know, let's. Anyway, I wanted to talk about why this subject was taboo in science, and then also want to speak to what it is. You know, I mean, why just look at my ugly face? I may be able to show a couple of pictures. I don't know. Can I share my screen?
No.
No. Okay, well, you're just going to put it on my ugly mug then. But I will tell your listeners that I am quite active, although I haven't put anything up there for a while for specific reasons. I like to, now you've got StreamYard all over my head. Yeah, it's called SlideShare.
Yes.
Yeah, so if anyone wants to see any of my stuff, either go to the YouTube Biofield Viewer playlist, or go to SlideShare, where people can just go and lift images or screen snap and, you know, present their own little way of looking at something, because there's lots of material there. And I really like it because, you know, I did a lecture on the premovascular system, which is the new description for the meridians. And, you know, tens of thousands of people looked at it. And I'm like, that saved me doing a lot of running around. You know, it's not got any audio, but, you know, pictures 6,000 words. So, yeah, I mean, I think what happened was about 110 years ago, certain families and individuals, nothing to do with institutes, realized that there was an opportunity to kind of maintain the, you know, the basic concept of government, right? And of course, if you translate the word government, a bit like the word mortgage means you pay till you're dead, which of course you wouldn't do if you realize what it meant. And then government means control of the mind, gouvernement. And so, you know, these things are so in our faces that, you know, we shouldn't really be surprised at the roller coaster that we're strapped into. So they get to decide, you know. I think there was a model for biochemistry in healthcare. The way I look at it is very simple, and I think your listeners will like this. You've heard of the wave particle experiment.
Yes.
Where light, when you try and look at it, it becomes a particle, and then it goes, you know, there's a wave.
Yeah.
You observe
experiment.
Yeah, right, the double slit, exactly. So what I'm saying is that all of modern medicine is basically particle state medicine. And all of the healing and the energy medicine and the thousands of different modalities and of therapies, they're wave state medicine. So they're basically the same thing, but we're addressing the situation when it's blinking into wave state, and therefore there's no side effects, no heavy plant required to drill through particles and experience healing crisis and side effects and recovery time, because we're in wave state, so we can talk about full remission, spontaneous remission, because you're in a wave state, you're not fixed to anything. And because reality actually blinks super fast between wave and particle state, which is why the double slit experiment seems to be an anomaly, the reality is that we've been sold down the river the whole way. I'll give you an example, and it's a hot potato for me because it's something that I'm really working on right now. And it's interestingly exactly about what you were talking about earlier, the electromagnetic spectrum. Now, if you study people like Dinshaw Gadali, some of the suppressed scientists who develop spectrochrometry, he basically says that green and magenta are the same frequency, but one is when the wave is going out, and magenta is when it's coming back. And we have this kind of Fugazi understanding of the rainbow. So the electromagnetic spectrum comes out of infrared into the visible spectrum. We go red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, and then off into ultraviolet. Yeah, but that's bullshit, because it isn't like that. If I press the middle C note on the piano, all the other C's vibrate. Why do they do that? They've got all these other bricks in the way. The reason why they vibrate is because the electromagnetic system is a spiral. and all the seas are lined up along that spring, and there's only air between them, and so they resonate up through the Jacob's ladder. And it's the same with healing. We need all those higher octaves of symphonic music for our healing, but they've stuck us into these digital ones and zeros. It's like a few people in the world are sticking a plastic bag over the head of the rest of us. That's what it's actually like. So we can't be naive. And so when we say, let's heal Scotland, I mean, let's fucking save ourselves from this absolute crazy madness where people can come on television and say, you've got to fucking take this jab that's going to fuck you up for the rest of your life. I mean, no, I'm not going to go back and listen to that shit. I'm sorry.
No.
I mean, you know, call a spade a spade. And anyway, I don't want the elephant in the room to become a woolly mammoth.
Yeah.
I mean, let's face it, before we all become extinct, in other words. So
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, right.
I think
go on.
There's a Scottish guy that's gone viral just now because he got in front of Rishi Sunak. I don't know if you've seen.
Oh yeah, I saw that. It's absolutely priceless.
Aye.
That's exactly what I'm speaking to. Yeah, and there was another fellow in there as well. The point is, people are dying in great numbers, and there are these white. They're not even clots. They look like rubber bands, tubes. You know, like calamari. I mean, you know, once you've got something and you can't do the magic rabbit spell on everybody, it's kind of going to sink in, I think. But at the moment, they're suppressing all the mortuaries and all the coroners. So the coroner of England is saying there is no problem, and Rishi Sunak is saying there is no problem. Well, I think these guys need to go to prison. I mean, forget what job they're doing. I mean, they should go to prison because they unleashed a cull on the British people. And I'm sorry, there is no other way to describe it. And history will not be kind to these MFers. They really will not. But let's get back into our fluffy world of chakras and meridians and how our colleagues can shine and need to shine, because they've got to light the way for everyone else who's stumbling around in the dark. You know, this is what we're talking about. It's illumination. You know, whatever grade you want to accept, whether you want to accept full Buddha kind of enlightenment, that's a bit nuclear and some people can't handle it. But if you just want to accept you've got a dimmer switch that you can turn up when you're ready, let's try that to start with and then see how, woo, I like that. You know, I think that's what we talk about when we talk about optimization, where we bring symmetry into our meridian system. And what are we talking about? Okay, let's go to the reality here, and I may never have told you this. Okay, so there's different states of matter, yeah? There's different elements. Okay, so out of spirit comes air. Well, okay, why not? I don't know what spirit is, so might as well let air come out of it. You know, and out of spirit and air comes fire. Okay, well, let's have a think about that for a minute. I need oxygen to light a match to get the fire going. Yeah, I can relate to that. Oxygen's in air and spirit's probably quite fiery. So I get that spirit can emerge as air and the two of them can emerge as fire. And then, of course, when you think about water, well, that's just two invisible gases that are in air joined together with some heat, fire, chemistry, and a bit of structure from spirit. So we're like, ting. Okay, so spirit emerges air, emerges fire, emerges water, and add all that stuff up together. You get the muddy stuff, you get earth. In other words, spirit has a U-bend. You have to accept being buried alive, being drowned, passing through the ring of fire, exposed to high fiery air and plasma before you get to cuddle divinity. But divinity is in everything, in various proportions. So it's a filter. Earth, like mud, is a filter so that the spirit is pure. Now, that may go over a lot of people's heads, but if you think about the human body, how do we expel mud, the earth? Well, we got an asshole for that. We go bathroom. And how do we eliminate liquid? Well, we pee and we sweat and we cry and we spit. How do we eliminate fire? Well, we just get really hot and just emanate. You know, elephants have ears that get big. You know, our Botox lips flare up. Whatever it is, you know, our skin has all those little pimples. If it's cold or if it's hot, you know, we can emanate heat. You know, you can measure heat emanating off someone at various temperatures. And then, of course, how do you emanate plasma and bioplasma? Well, it's going to burn your dick if you try and urinate plasma. So we have a special network of designed systems called acupuncture points or mama points, and the light, that plasma, is eliminated from all of those points. There's hundreds of them. There's even secret points. And so that sum total of torchlights makes your biofield with spin added. So the thing is shining but spinning, and you know, obviously you don't realize you're spinning because every cell of your body is evolved to surf that wave. So it's just like you're sitting there on your board. So this process of emanating biophotons is equivalent to you thinking. We're talking about consciousness. We're talking about dynamic biophotons, spirit, plasma, prana, chi, you know, the 7 molecules all in a beautiful cuddle doing their thing. I mean, you lie in the park, look up at the sky, and you'll see these little white things zooming around. That's kind of plasma. That's what we're emanating. And it cleans the pipes. You know, an acupuncturist, when there's so much of the soot, you know, in other words, if your thoughts are kind of downgraded, you're like in the porn or whatever it is, then you're going to not be shining light. You're going to be shining soot because you've tuned into a lower vibration and you've made magic dust material from your delusions. And so the acupuncturist needs to stick his needle in there and unblock them. Now, unfortunately, there's a lot of people in that mucky soup at the moment. They just don't have any self-respect. So, you know, people could argue karma is you get what you deserve. You know, you go to the doctor, you get a pill, go back to your sandpit, look at your phone. You know, if you want to stand up for those people who don't want to give a fuck for themselves and they just want to eat trash and talk trash and live in a box full of trash, I'd say, well, let's make them a smaller box, you know. I wouldn't say that. That's very sinister. What I would say is that nature is in charge here. Nature's the conductor of the symphony. It may mean it may feel like we're at a techno house party at the moment, but the reality is we're not. Nature is in charge of the symphony. And I'll give you an example. And again, just to get people thinking, you know, they talk about this gut-brain
axis, yes.
Right, okay, so let me tell you, we don't realize that we're a mob. The Chinese say that we're at least 8 Ho and 2 Poon. You know, we're more like a reef. We've got billions of bacteria, these little fish swimming around. And if we put crap in the tank, you know, those fish are basically going to be like little cheesy acid house ravers, fully inappropriate in your sacred space. Yeah? But if you have a healthy relationship with your gut bacteria, they're going to genuinely inform you. And what I mean by this gut brain thing is not a gut brain. I guess the neurons there, but it's not about that. It's you've got 2 billion guys in your stomach, like a symbiotic, you know, I don't know what I'd like to say here. Mistletoe. Yeah, like a mistletoe. And so the oak tree is very happy because that like those fish that eat the bugs off whales, you know, like it's a good, healthy relationship. And so there's 2 billion bacteria standing in the middle of the road, and there's a truck coming towards you, and you're looking at your phone. They're going to make you look up and get out of the way. It's not you that's going to do that. It's the relationship. It's a telepathic relationship.
Yeah, I heard Zach Bush talking about that actually just a couple of days ago. I was listening to his podcast.
No, well, he probably heard mine, but that's totally where I'm at with it, and have been for a while, because we need to understand that we're a reef, and this whole concept of I, it doesn't make sense.
No.
It's
But
like I is a closed eye, and I just say open it and see what happens. There is no I. If you refer to yourself as I, you're already fucked, because you think there's just one of you. You know, we have to nurture the mob, you know, and understand that our gut, even if you only accept a gut flora. I mean, I think it's funny in Vedic medicine, there's a whole branch called Bhuts, which is basically entities. And yet modern medicine doesn't recognize entities at all. And so they quite happily do heart surgery and a transplant on someone. And because they've cleaved a being open and they've no idea what they're doing, whilst the poor fellow's lying on the table recovering, all these other entities can rush in because they've literally cleaved the poor thing open through all of the fields. And they're designed to not let entities in normally. So, yeah, I mean, anyway, I want to talk about why you can't study the chakras at a university in England. I mean, I was at Paris University, and they were doing a conference on, I don't even know what it was, strange phenomenon, something like that. Anyway, so this guy from Manchester came up to me and he said, how can you be doing all this stuff? And I was like, what do you mean, how can I be doing all this stuff? I'm observing. I'm a fucking scientist. What do you mean? And he's like, well, I had a friend, a colleague, in fact, who'd just gotten tenure at Manchester University. And he went full on wanting to do a study into the chakras. And he got fired. And I'm like, what, now? Like, recently? And he's like, yeah. I was like, just, you know. So that's still going on.
really?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Oh, yeah. So let's not be naive about what the funding story is. And I guess that's why I'm happy that I got, you know, I did the cornflakes ad. You know, they used my innocence to sell their beautiful corn that they'd done some enough to just to stick on a shelf and package it up to sell roughage to people instead of light. So they used my innocence for that. And, you know, but they also paid me and my dad invested it well. So I didn't have to kind of kowtow to some funding. I've got so many examples of people asking us to apply for a grant that aid allocated to us, and we still didn't get it.
Really?
Yeah, because it got sabotaged. I had the keys for the diagnostic center in a hospital, and all of the radiologists linked arms outside, and they wouldn't let us in. Because,
really?
Yeah, because they know. I mean, radiology kills people, and so they want to protect it.
Yeah.
I mean, based on the fact the government has already spent your pension, you've got to appreciate they don't want you around to claim it.
Yeah, it's a pretty grim thought, isn't it? Pretty grim thought.
Well,
So,
no, it just means step
can you
out
talk
of the
about
system.
a bit about what we can see there in the, because there's different views, obviously, that we can use with your technology. So we can look at the chakra viewer, we can look at the biofield viewer, and then we can look at the 3D. So what, can you just talk about the information that we can
Yeah. I will. The biofield viewer, because it's really looking at the sort of biophotonic emissions, almost like photons, it means we can speak to all the systems of the body. So the skeletal system, the cardiovascular system, the renal system, the system of elimination, whatever system it is. But we're always talking to the energy associated with that system because we don't want to go to jail. These guys have created this concept called diagnosis. Mm-hmm. Diagnosis means two people don't know. I mean, come on. You know, we need to get out of the dark age, and Biofield Viewer allows us to see an entire functioning system. I mean, you wouldn't buy a car from a photograph, would you? Like an X-ray. You buy a car when you've taken it for a test drive. So Biofield Viewer allows us to see the functionality of the systems of the body as they're all, you know, integrated with each other. And so, for example, and the way I would use it and teach people to use it is It's like, look at the thing that catches your eye first, the focal point, because that's probably the place to start. You know, like
Yes.
it's like the biggest mess in your house. If you clean that up, then everywhere else is kind of manageable then, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's,
absolutely.
but it's very important because this is actually a genuine clue for prioritization. And I say this is one of our USP because, okay, you want to lead someone on the stepping stones to healing. Well, which order? We can see which order. That's actually really important because by the time you get to the seventh stone, it may have dissolved. You may not even need to go there. And that's why healing can be very gentle when it becomes precision guided with technology like Biofield Viewer. So the chakra viewer basically takes all of it out of focus. So you're no longer tripped out on focusing on things. And suddenly, strangely, different things happen. The first thing is that you don't get an exact copy of the Biofield Viewer. You say, what happened? And the reality is that things that have emerged in the physical, like an injury, like someone's got collapsed arches, so the knees and ankles and hips are problematic, big red clouds all over them in the Biofield Viewer image. Well, then we would advise Birkenstocks or tiptoeing around or go to a ballet class or whatever it is to train their arches. We're not going to say, yeah, this guy's not grounded. You know, he doesn't know which way to turn. It's not the emotional version. So you don't see the red blobs in the chakra image. It's very strange. And so if we see something much more profoundly in the chakra viewer image, it therefore means this is an emotional problem that hasn't even probably become physical yet. So we've got these windows of opportunity. You know, what tools do we use? If I can just use very gentle tools like flower remedies, then this person's not even going to have any toxicity or side effects. But if this thing is more embedded and we see it in both the chakra viewer and the Biofield Viewer, then, you know, they may need some kind of intervention like deep tissue massage or surgery or whatever it is. I don't know. I'm not with that guy right now. 3D is different. 3D, we take it off the set tripod with the set lighting. And you don't even need lighting because it's just focusing on the biophotonic emissions. So if you take your camera in your hand and fly over the body like the moon passing the Earth, like, you know, around at a certain angle, it's all about at a certain angle, but obviously you can see it on a great big screen live. You can see these spikes of light emanating from the acupuncture points. And it's interesting, for example, if someone has a lot, like an Australian, I don't mean to, sorry, I shouldn't say that, someone who's in the sun a lot, who might have a higher chance of a skin cancer, the 3D would be a very sensible thing for them to get because they can check and they can fly over all of the moles. And if the spikes of biophotons are only a certain height, then it's normal. But if they're way, way long, then that thing's probably malignant.
Ah, okay. I've not used that then. I need to get that a little bit.
Well, there's lots of surprises. I mean, put it this way, some of the doctors who use Biofield Viewer, by rote, they import all of the client's medical images into the Biofield Viewer. So they come with their little plastic bag with a CD or two in it, and all of those MRIs and PET scans and any type of scan goes through the Biofield Viewer and they see more detail. So if they've got a CT scan of a tumor, you run that through the Biofield Viewer, you can see hotspots in the tumor. So if you're targeting Reiki or little silver balls, that's what you're doing.
Yes, so, I mean, it's super helpful. What I've been doing with it, obviously, is helping, you know, because a big part of what I do is make a wellness plan for my clients.
Right.
So this is what you need to do at home because, you know, we're just can only do so much in an hour or 2 hours. And then it's giving them practical things that they can actually do at home. And then I'm not at this stage yet because I've not told you this yet, but I've been offered a hotel in Skye in the winter to set up a kind of pop-up healing centre. So obviously to be able to set that up properly with the right lighting so we can really use that tool to observe the light, how much light the body's able to utilize and, you know, cleanse the flow. And obviously, because letting go is and emotional release is my big passion, then, you know, we're going to be able to see improvements with that.
I'm sure medical tourism will become one of Scotland's biggest businesses as you move away from sucking oil out of the ground and all that sort of thing, and grouse shooting. You know, I think those sacred Highland islands of yours will have lots of refuges and like the modern hospital where you walk in and you get to walk out. You know, you don't leave out the back in a box.
Yeah. You know, I was speaking to Ryan Williams. You know Ryan, don't you?
Of course I do. I've known him since I was a nipper.
Oh, have you? Well, I was talking to him yesterday. I had a great chat with him because, you know, obviously I've been saying this for a while. I need all this equipment set up so that people can utilize it and we can get them on, you know, repeatedly using the sound frequencies, the Biofield Viewer, and as you say, they can get to know themselves on a whole.
I mean, I have to say in regard to that, I mean, I love Ryan. He's one of my dearest, best friends. But I mean, Britain got a really rich history in such things as radionics. You know, you can buy an old George de la Ware radionics device for 50 quid. You know, I mean, I would encourage people to look at tools which aren't, you know, X dollars a month, or, you know, some Fugazi on the laptop or the iPod. I mean, real frequencies have a sacred harmonic. The people that developed radionics and other techniques like tuning forks, they never just jumped and said, oh, well, now we can make a digital version. Yeah, okay, so have you done 30 years of research like I have? Or did you just put that thing out and start collecting fees? I don't know. I just think there are other places to go to. I wouldn't get a healee, you know, some black box healing thing, and like think we've made a shortcut. I genuinely get into the singing bowls and the kind of real reverb, because like I said, there's a stairway to heaven. Healing has a stairway to heaven, and it's about resonant harmonics. It's not about the knife or the 0 or the 1. There's something else, as you would imagine, of course, if you thought about it. So yeah, well, drumming. I mean, all that shamanic stuff, the Celtic druid stuff. They snuff all these traditions out. Probably will find the best tuning fork in Britain is actually the druid's harp, because we kind of evolved around it, and they snuffed it out, and they've given us, you know, Steve Wright on Radio 1. You know, thank you. I really appreciate that.
Well, I don't fully agree with all of that, but because certainly the resonances that we're getting are pretty, you can feel.
No, I don't doubt that. I don't doubt that my friend Ryan's Insight app works. Otherwise, I would have said that. I think it does work, but I'm just saying, do you want to have a masturbatory canned experience, or do you want to have full-on goddess sex or god sex with your partner?
Well, we're not really talking about.
Sorry. I mean, yeah. Sorry, this could be a family show.
And no, I know what you mean. And but the reality is, you're talking about a lot of people in their house, unable to get out and access a lot of these. I mean, there's nothing better than an actual live sound bath, obviously. Right. But we can still have a hugely.
Yeah. But as long as we don't forget to remind our fellows that they can get a lot of relief with a bag of Epsom salts and a bucket of warm water.
Well, yeah, of course. We that's partly what we do. We give out all the different protocols that you can use to support the body.
Okay. Well, let's tiptoe away from this thing, because, you know, there's so many areas that we can look at things. I would certainly say I've been blown away by some of the amazing images where you can clearly see entities in heart transplant patients. And it makes because, you know, they slayed homeopathy, and they've been ripping down anything that seems too good to be true or incredible. They've got these paid skeptics who write to the newspapers and cause all sorts of trouble with people like the BBC. So they just don't have a defence, and so suddenly homeopathy is no longer part of the NHS. Well,
Don't you think
homeopathy.
people are waking up to all that now? You know, I think that people are starting to wake up, do their own research, understand that a lot of the drugs don't work. The pharmaceuticals, I heard Jeremy Ayres calling it. And we have
Well, I wish we were already done with it. I think at the moment I'm quite happy standing on my orange box and reminding people that things like homeopathy are fantastic. I mean, in the last 20 years, I've been in India, Bulgaria, and maybe another country where I had some funny turn, and each time it was completely sorted out by a homeopath. And yet I wonder whether you've got even access to a homeopath, you know.
Yeah, we've got a wonderful homeopath in Glasgow who's coming to our festivals.
Great. Well, I didn't mean you. I meant the other people who are watching.
Well, I think part of the Heal Scotland movement is to educate people on all the other things that are available, and that's what we'll be doing at the festivals. We're going to have a come and meet homeopath, come and meet a biofeedback therapist, come and meet see the feedback, so that people are educated in all the other things that are available.
Cool. And remind me when it is. The next one is April, isn't it?
We've got two this in April. We've got one in Tarbert Argyll and we've got one in Skye. Have you ever been in Skye?
Did you ever hear about that bear, Hercules, that escaped?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I was there.
Were you?
When the damn thing escaped. I met the guy in his ice cream truck, pining, sitting on the back step, crying over his poor bear.
Uh-huh.
But that was actually in the Outer Hebrides. But I think it swam to Skye. I spent a lot of my childhood with your midgies. Thank you very much.
I think that's the dreaded midge. Well, that's why we're doing both festivals in April before they come out, because it's kind of torturous. Yeah, but anyway, listen, I think we're pretty good. We've been on here for nearly an hour.
Yeah. And of course, this could just be the engagement party for a lot of us. And, you know, I might see them at your festival. I don't know which one I'm going to come to, but I'm definitely going to come.
Yeah, we need to talk about that and get it organised, because it'd be just amazing to have you there. I'm going to have the Biofield Viewer at both the festivals anyway.
Yeah, which one would you prefer me to come to?
Ooh. You not just stay for 2 weeks and come to them both?
Oh, yeah, I suppose I could. Yeah, that'd be nice. When is it? It's April, you said, yeah. Well, okay, I tell you what. If one of your friends is prepared to fly to Mexico, I'll buy their ticket, and they can house sit my dog and my cats.
Oh my God!
2 weeks.
We could do a swap. Somebody can go and house sit for you.
Yeah, exactly. That's all I need. Then I'll do both of them. But we'll work something out for sure. No, I agree. It's time to go because I'm also hungry. I thought we were on an hour ago. I didn't eat anything. And now the little guys we were talking about earlier in my tummy are sending me like, feed me, Seymour.
Can you let us see out the window again before we go?
Yeah. I mean, you know what? I'm not going to do that. I'm going to take you outside because the guy with his funny machine is gone. And so you're going to get the full, authentic Mexican experience. Oh, and the other thing, it's a proper ocean. I don't know, because I've got coconut trees in the way.
Have you been in the ocean yet?
Yeah, of course I have. I was in the bloody ocean just before I spoke to you. What the hell do you think? And then if you look this way, I don't know whether you can see. Fuck, I don't know. There's nothing. There's nobody. Yeah. You can walk for 10 miles.
Wow. Oh my God, look at the white sand.
Yeah.
You see the ocean, the ocean.
Yeah, well, I'll try. There's just trees. I don't know what to say. I'll go back to that room where
you can see out the window.
Yeah, there's trees. Or maybe downstairs. This place is an absolute palace. And you know how I ended up? I just have really good friends. And my friend, I said to my friend, I want to come and stay. Because, like I said, I was doing my round of collecting things. Check this place out!
Oh my God!
Yeah, it's proper. It's a proper house.
Proper house.
It is. Yeah, you can get lost.
Beautiful.
In fact, I've lost my dog right now. Yeah, so down here, I think you're going to have a better luck because we're more with the trunks than the branches. I mean, there's a few, you know, building blocks and things.
Oh wow! Oh
There's your
wow!
river.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll probably go jump in it. I'll be in there before, you know, soon.
Oh, fantastic, fantastic. Well,
Yeah.
listen, thanks a million for your time, and I'll hook up with you soon to talk about the festivals. And
I do just want to say, though, that I'm incredibly busy, hard-working fellow, as you well know, by how many hours I spend. Come in, sweetheart. How many hours I spend with each of my students on my computer. So yes, I have lovely fresh air, but don't think I'm a bum, please.
Well, I am a bum. I'm quite happy to admit it.
Okay, lots of love, everybody. Nice to meet you all.
Thanks, Thornton.
Yeah.
Ciao.
God bless.